Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of The Better Satellite World. I'm Lou Zaccarella with the SSPI. Today, we're beginning our conversations with the recipients of the Better Satellite World Awards of 2020. Thanks to this year's Better Satellite World Awards sponsors, especially our anchor sponsors, Milbank Law and Mansat. Thanks also to our corporate partners, Eutelsat, EchoStar Hughes, and Access Intelligence, the publishers of Via Satellite magazine. We're delighted to have Debbie Mavis with us. She's the Group Human Resources Director and a member of the Executive Committee at Avanti Communications. Debbie, just so you know, oversees all aspects of HR, property, internal communications, and CSR globally. And we're delighted to have her with us today. Welcome, Debbie.
Hi, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Well, first of all, congratulations on being the recipient of that award.
It's fantastic, isn't it? We're delighted to receive the recognition for the work we've done on the Biddy Biddy camp. We're absolutely delighted all across the company.
Well, it is an enormously important project, and it's also important to the industry because it demonstrates the role of satellites in supporting refugee relief. And you know, the judges for the award said that you had taken a step forward with your project in the Biddy Biddy camps. Debbie, for those who may not be familiar with it yet, can you describe the challenge that was presented to Avanti there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, East Africa and Uganda in particular host some of the largest refugee communities in the world. I mean, Avanti understands the strain this puts on displaced populations, their host governments, communities, and the humanitarian organisations. Many refugee camps in Uganda are in the remotest of locations, off-grid and logistically difficult to reach. But this is precisely where Avanti and our satellite broadband capabilities can create the largest impact. So through our CSR activity, we aim to help bridge the digital divide for refugees in these locations. And Biddy Biddy Camp that won the award, the access to learning and employment is limited, and demand greatly exceeds the supply of the internet sort of capability that's there.
Debbie, how did you identify that particular refugee camp? I know it's as I have read, I believe it's one of the largest refugee settlements in East Africa. And having identified it, why did you decide that the delivery of broadband was so critical?
So we were introduced to an organisation called the Social Innovation Academy, and we were introduced to them by the Global Business Coalition for Education, which is a platform that brings together educational partners and so to create basically education initiatives. So after they made the initial introduction to us, our CSR team worked closely with the Social Innovation Academy, and it was clear from the start that their innovation approach would really sort of help us, help these people in the refugee camps. Key for us was to ensure our solutions could meet those specific needs, and so we used sort of NGOs on the ground and partners on the ground to help us really understand what their sort of requirements were, and then how we could help to do that. With the Biddy Biddy is the largest off-grid camp, and that's why we kind of chose that one first. It became clear that what we could actually help them with was something that they really needed. So really, it was a bit of a match. It was a bit of a no-brainer, I guess, how the two came together.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't a no-brainer. I'm sure you put a lot of thought into it, and it was an enormous challenge. When you talk about working with NGOs and the Social Innovation Academy and others on the ground, did you envision that the primary challenge would be social, or was it technical for you guys?
So I guess our experience is providing connectivity, and we've provided connectivity into sort of education programs. We've provided it into sort of helping sort of Ministry of Interior and Red Cross societies with emergencies and disasters. But this was our first program into like a refugee camp. And I guess the first thing that we thought of was that connectivity can help people do sort of formal applications and applying for jobs and bank accounts, set that sort of thing up. But it's also been really positive on a social perspective. So feedback we've had from the camp and some of the so the people in the camp have sent us all kinds of videos of them being on Facebook and keeping in touch with their, friends back home, etc. So it's really been both. It's actually helped both.
Yeah, and of course that's an enormous advance. Obviously, when people can be connected that way. What have been the results to date? Have you been able? Do you measure them, or is there a metric for them, or do you just sort of take a look at progress some other way?
So one of the quick measures, I guess, is how much bandwidth they're using, and so we know it's incredibly popular on the ground. So certainly people are really sort of taking on board and staying connected, which is great. COVID had slowed us down a bit. We would have been able to do a lot more measures than we've been able to do because of not being able to travel and get out to the camp so much. And it's also slowed us down slightly with the Biddy Biddy camp is just the first of the initiative that we kicked off with the United Nations refugee camp side of things, and we've got another 7 or 8 camps to roll out throughout the rest of the year, the rest of next year, and that's kind of hampered us a bit with COVID. So I guess from a measurement perspective, we know they're happy, we know they're getting the connectivity that they want, but when it comes down to more hard metrics, that's going to take a bit longer.
Yeah. Why is the digital divide and closing it using satellite so important?
I guess satellite can get to the most rural areas, areas where sort of fibre can't get to, and it knows no boundaries, I guess, really.
Right.
Where we've got pretty much ubiquitous cover over Africa. So in areas where people are really struggling to get to, that we know we can get there. And yeah, I mean, there just should be no divide. You just because you happen to live in a certain area, you shouldn't. But technology these days should be able to reach every part of the planet, and we're kind of making sure that it does do that.
Yeah, and you just keep unlocking human potential everywhere, right? And you begin to see transformation in places. People tend to stay home. They tend to create levels of prosperity. The social cohesion tightens, and you see virtuous things, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, the project that we've been sort of instrumental into in the last 6 years in Kenya, a project called Imalango, where we provide connectivity into 245 schools. We've been doing that for 6 years or so, and the difference, the learning outcomes, the difference that's made is staggering. Even the difference in those children going to schools on the days they know that they've got, their ICT lessons on that particular day. And we've got evidence to show that just by having that connectivity and having the laptop in front of them, how it's increased the school age of individuals that's been using the connectivity in those schools.
Yeah, I know Uganda has a lot of Catholic schools, I know the Catholic Church was there for many years, probably still is, trying to boost the educational effort. Did you find that there was a relatively high educational level in Uganda, or were you really going in and educating, or delivering, broadband to allow education from sort of ground zero?
Our schools program is, I can't comment on that in Uganda. Our schools program is across Kenya, is only in Kenya at the moment. We had a previous one a couple of years ago in Tanzania, but at the moment our the program, the Imalango program, only touches Kenya itself. Got
it. I want to get back to your partnerships, because again, I think that type of collaboration is really, really critical, and I suspect you would agree. You mentioned you partnered with the Social Innovation Academy and others, working with the UN. What's the key for our industry to making these partnerships work successfully, do you think? We certainly don't have all the answers. So we know we're the experts in connectivity and providing satellite communication. And there are people on the ground that really, need our help. But you could spend years and years in trying to understand and working out, what we can actually bring to the party. So by working with partners on the ground, so with the UNHCR, that we work very closely with them and really understanding what the challenges are and understanding where the real pressure points are, looking after the refugee camps, etc. So partnering with people, when you find a really good partner on the ground that's been there, they've done it, they understand, and they can make things happen much more quickly.
So we can make a difference more quickly by sort of thinking that we can, go in and know all the answers. By no means do we know all the answers. So we talk to the experts on the ground. And that, I think, is what's helped us to achieve this so quickly. I mean, it was only in 2019 that we first started talking to the UNHCR about the Bidi Bidi camp, and we've been able to get it off the ground sort of that quickly.
Yeah. Is it an alignment of philosophies, would you say, that really is the key to these, or is it like just about everything else in our business, in our world, relationships that are developed?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, you've both got, I mean, definitely relationships really help. It's really key to finding somebody you can work with and that you're all sort of singing from the same hymn sheet and you want to do the same thing. But you also want to work with people that are doing the right things. And so we sort of think very carefully and work hard to look for partners that have got the same values as we've got. And we're a small organisation, with a very small satellite company, but with the coverage we have, we just want to make sure that we're working with the right partners that gets to the people that where it really matters.
Yeah, of course, your Bidi Bidi project is an award-winning project now, and the world recognizes it as such. Is there anything that the rest of the satellite community should be learning from this, and was there anything technically that we may want to consider to continue to enable broadband to be more widespread?
Yeah, very much so. I think we're learning even now. We could look back and do things. Would we do them exactly the same again? We're learning as we go. By working with those local partners on the ground really helped, because I say we didn't have to kind of make all the mistakes that others have made in the past. So that certainly helped. We worked with local installers because they know the area, they know the sort of off-grid. It's like a 10-hour drive to get to where you've got to get to in the Bidi Bidi camp. So being able to work with those partners that really understand it was huge. With our solar powered, we've got solar powered units in the Bidi Bidi camp, because that's important as well, because electricity is challenging, and so making sure that the right equipment gets managed and gets put into the right place is really key as well.
I want to just refer to that solar power aspect of it. Was that unique? Did you guys have to engineer something there, or was that an off-the-shelf solution that you put together?
I knew you were going to get all technical on me, Lou, and asking me technical.
Yes, well, English majors tend to do that because we don't know,
Exactly. They are solar powered. We do provide them into rural areas. So off the shelf is probably a bit of a stretch of the imagination, but it's something that we do provide into many of our customers. It's certainly in rural areas across Africa. So yes, it's quite common for us to install solar powered units. But if you test me any more than that, I'd have to ring my CTO.
No, you passed that level of the test. But again, I think it's important for people to know that again, we also work on the sustainability side, and we're just so good at engineering, right? We can solve all of these problems. The big problem, I think, that you've addressed, Debbie, and it sounds like you're passionate about it, as is Avanti, is the envisioning of broadband becoming more ubiquitous as we go forward. And I think there are a few things that the satellite industry can do to really make its claim of making the world a better place day in and day out than providing more and more broadband to connect places. As you look ahead with your work and what you've been able to accomplish, where do you think broadband will have its greatest impact as it relates to satellites and communities and the things that you've been working on, say, over the next, 18 months?
Great question. I think we've only just got the tip of the iceberg at the moment. I think being able to partner, as we've said in the past, with DFID and what we've done for the schools has been fabulous. But we're only in 245 schools in Kenya. There's thousands of schools that we'd kind of like to get to. So I think continuing with things like schools programs and to really support education, and we can support education and then people take that through their lives with them, and then as adults then they're supporting their children, etc., etc. It just keeps on, it keeps continuing. So education is something that we feel very strongly about. In the humanitarian field, the challenges we know that organisations are up against, and certainly now with COVID, has absolutely not helped us with this global pandemic. I mean, it's put even more strain and pressure on those organisations. So any connectivity that we can certainly help there is beneficial. And with the way that satellites operate now, we have steerable beams. So, even I'm saying we had ubiquitous cover over Africa, but you can also then you steer, and when you've got, war breaking out or peacekeeping challenges, all those sorts of things, that's where now that satellite can certainly support, and that's we do a lot of work with military and helping in those areas too. So I think it's I can't think of an area where we don't want to get involved in education, humanitarian, and then supporting as we do in sort of peacekeeping in sort of military work is certainly our strategy, is the areas that we're going to focus on.
And you alluded to the satellite industry having more flexible tools to work with, right? And I think that's going to be very, very important, or at least it sounds like you believe that as well.
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, as I said, I'm not the most technical person, but when when you see it and when you can see what a satellite is capable of, and by moving, it's not a case of just flicking a switch and off it goes somewhere else, but by moving the beam and focusing on areas where we know the needs are greatest, it's incredibly a powerful tool.
It really is, and I know it sounds sometimes like a cliche when we say it, but if you can educate people, you can really transform lives in cities, communities, and entire economies going forward. Last question, Debbie. Should the rest of the industry be doing more? Should they be doing the kinds of things you're doing?
I would love to think so. I'm not certain what other companies, what our sort of competitors and our sort of partners are doing. We've been so focused on what we're doing and what we need to get out to do. I think it's absolutely, when you think about the difference that we can make to the livelihoods of people in rural areas and schools, etc., the difference by with the satellite connectivity is huge. I mean, the faces of the children that I see when I go into the schools in Kenya, it's just, nothing can, with all the years I've worked in commercial and then doing that, nothing takes the place of that smile and just watching children and how they can, learning to read on their iPads, etc. I think there's nothing better than seeing that. So yeah, absolutely. I'd love to say everybody should do more. We certainly intend to do that.
I said that was the last question, but I lied, because you raised something else, and I know a little bit about your career. We did a conversation with Hypergiant's chief of ethics, Will Griffin, a while back, and we're coming to the conclusion that good ethics is good for business. Looking back at your career, would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, this is the first I've been working for 35 years or so, and this is the first time that I've had anything to do with sort of educational programs, schools, etc. And nothing can better. Nothing's topped that by going into those schools and seeing what our connectivity can do to those children. It's absolutely, it's a winner. And it's humbling, but it's funny. They've got a great sense of humor. The children are fabulous, and they just so appreciate it. The schools and the ministries in Kenya really appreciate what you do and make you feel so welcome when you go there. I would urge everybody to go and see the schools in Kenya and see what it does.
We've got to get those kids into the industry. I mean, that's the next step, isn't it? Make them future leaders. And Debbie, you've taken a big step in getting us there. Congratulations again on Avanti's success and also receiving the Better Satellite World Award. And sorry I kept you a little long today, but this is the Bitty Bitty Refugee Camp project is just a fascinating one. And as you say, one of many that you guys are taking on. So best of luck going forward.
Thank you very much. I'll come back and let you know how it goes when we rolled out the next 7 camps across Uganda and Kenya.
I'm going to hold you to that. You're on.
Well, that concludes my conversation with Debbie Mavis of Avanti, one of the recipients of the 2020 Better Satellite World Awards. Congratulations once again to Avanti and to all of the recipients of this year's awards. Thanks also to this year's Better Satellite World Awards sponsors, especially our anchor sponsors, Milbank Law and Mansat. Thanks also to our corporate partners, Eutelsat, EchoStar Hughes, and Access Intelligence, the publishers of Via Satellite magazine. And join us next week for another conversation with a recipient of our 2020 awards, SatMed of SES, and learn how the space and satellite industry is making the world healthier in big and small ways. Stay tuned also for a big announcement coming up by SSPI when we name the new recipients of the industry's Hall of Fame. In March, we will host that event, and the day before, we will have a virtual webinar on leadership in turbulent times. You won't want to miss those events. Visit sspi.org to learn more. For the Better Satellite World, I'm Lou Zaccarella. On behalf of the members of SSPI and our producer, Ana Gomez, take care, and let's be sure that in 2021, that we really do make it a better satellite world.